Okay, so this is group 4. This is our presentation on Battleship. So I'm going to start out this by talking about a few things. Cohesion, loose coupling, and Java beans. So I'm just going to see if I can share this. Of cohesion is tied with loose coupling. And the cohesion is the idea that each function of a class only has one purpose or idea. And so the idea is that this makes the program more modular. If everything has only one purpose, then you don't clutter things and you can easily plug in pieces where you need them. And a good example of this would maybe be the ship placement class here, which only does one thing. It only places the ships. It doesn't try to play the game. It doesn't do each player's turn. It just places ships. And related to that would be loose coupling, when that means that there are few dependencies between the classes. And so that's helpful for programming so that changes in one class don't necessarily affect every other class. So you can make changes to a class without affecting everything else. And so you want those two to work together so that a class only has one purpose, but then it can also not have too many things carrying over. And one of the ways we do that is by making making things private. So, for example, here's all these variables and these functions are private here, so that other things have to access them through different functions, the getter functions. So that way the class can remain loosely coupled from the other classes. And then related to that would be the Java beans. And Java beans are basically a class that acts as kind of a encapsulated version of an idea. So here we have a ship bean. That's what we've called it. And so this would be used to contain all the attributes of a ship. So we have, for example, length and type and value, and then we have the empty constructor, and then we have all these things that are the ways to access it. So a separate function could call this this bean, and it would just get all of these things all together without having to hardwire in length and type and value and all the different attributes. And that way you can change this, and then the other function calling it is just calling the bean encapsulated thing, so whatever is in here will transfer to the other thing. And that way you can loosely couple things, but still be able to make changes to it. And so that's those ideas, the loosely coupling, cohesion, and Java beans.
Okay, I'm Rebecca, and I'm going to talk about inheritance and polymorphism. Inheritance is useful when you have code that's duplicated between classes. By using the super keyword, you can create a superclass that contains all of the code needed for multiple classes. And then these subclasses can then be connected to the superclass by using the keyword extends. Each subclass will have access to the code in the superclass, and then any code unique to that class. The superclass does not have access to the code in the subclasses, but the subclasses have access to the code in the superclass. Subclasses can also be superclasses to other subclasses, and then the subclasses will inherit the code from the original superclass as well as the immediate superclass above them. Polymorphism is the ability of an object to take on many forms. The common use of polymorphism in object-oriented programming occurs when a parent class reference is used to refer to a child class object.
Okay, and this is Jordan. I'm going to talk about enumerations, and a Java enumeration is a special kind of Java class type that is used to define a fixed set of constant values. these values in turn can be used throughout the program. And the values don't have to be a string or number, and they can inherit from other enum classes and implement their own interface classes. I'll show an example of it. So this is just an example of the enumeration we made, and the enumeration is created using the enum keyword, and then the objects inside are the enumeration constants. And the constants can hold the values that are defined by the list. So then all of these constants hold the values here off to the side. That's enumerations.
Hey guys, this is David. I'm going over the difference between a class instant variable and a class variable. And so it's pretty simple. A class variable is shared among the class and all of its descendants, and a class instance variable is not shared by the class's descendants. So it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not much more to go over, but just to reiterate, a class variable is shared among the class and all of its descendants, so any subclasses that you may have associated with it, and then a class instance variable is not shared by those subclasses or descendants.
This is Eric, and I was asked to speak on the nested classes. Kind of playing off of what David has said about the static and instance variables. Classes, you can have nested classes. Nested classes is like having a box that you have two smaller boxes inside. This allows you, these nested classes allow you to organize and group classes logistically into one place to be used only in that, that superclass. It makes your code more readable, and it also allows for easier maintenance for your code. There's two different versions of nested classes. You have static and non-static classes. Non-static classes are also sometimes referred to as inner classes.
This is Taylor, and I'm going to talk about interfaces. An interface is similar to an abstract class. The interface specifies what must be done, but it doesn't say how to do it. You can implement any number of classes into the interface, and that's what makes it different from an abstract class. The class must provide the bodies for what the interface needs to do. An example of this we used in this week's assignment when we created our enter info interface and our display info interfaces in our project this week. And that is our presentation for this week. Thank you.